Hey everyone, Jake here for American Muscle, and in this video we're taking a look at the AWE Track Edition catback exhaust with the chrome silver tips fitting 2024 and newer Mustang GT fastbacks without the active exhaust. Now, if outright volume and raucous fun is what you're after, then this Track Edition catback from AWE is going to be just what the mechanic ordered. This is a super high quality system that will make the Coyote engine absolutely shout. And accordingly, we're going to give this one a 5 out of 5 on our loudness meter. AWE has been making high quality exhaust for decades, and this system certainly does that reputation justice. They've also been known to bring the volume, which this system certainly does. So this is perfect for the S650 owner who's planning to track their car or just wants to have a high quality exhaust that also absolutely sounds the business. No getting around it, this one is loud, and let's just say your neighbors will definitely know that something is up. Now surprisingly though, it is not as intrusive inside the cabin as you might expect, but it is still going to have a lot of volume. Now I can't really stress it enough, this is not quiet, but man does it sound good. It's deep, it's burbly, it's aggressive, and of the 3 flavors offered for the 24 and up Mustang GT, the Track Edition is the most rowdy of the bunch. This one really opens up the floodgates, and if you listen closely, especially at lower revs, you can almost hear each individual cylinder firing off, which I think personally is really cool. Now, of course, more volume outside translates to more volume inside of the cabin as well, and there will be absolutely no mistaking what is under the hood, but that's most of the fun of these cars anyway, right? But I digress. It is still surprisingly not that obtrusive though when you're just cruising around. Now, you're definitely aware of what's going on under the hood, but when you're just puttering around town, it's apparent that you do have an exhaust, but it's not all that much louder than stock. When you really get on it though, that's when you're going to truly notice the difference. However, AWE has included something to help stave off the dreaded exhaust drone. So this is much more pleasant than say just a straight pipe or a muffler delete. First is the H-pipe here at the front of the system. Now H-pipes are great because they basically have a dual function. They equalize pressure across both sides of the exhaust system, which helps increase exhaust flow. Now H-pipes specifically provide most of their power benefit down low in the rev range, which pairs well with the Coyote since it is more robust up high. So you'll get a little increase in flow and therefore power. But more importantly, that pressure equalization also means that exhaust pulses can commingle, resulting in less drone than a system without a crossover pipe. Now, one other thing to note is that though this system is unmuffled, you do have a couple of resonators here. Now, it's kind of hard to see, but these do have some baffling in them, so it's going to help stave off any of those unwanted frequencies as well, and going to get you that sound that you like. Now, the whole system is finished off with these sweet 4.5-inch diameter chrome silver tips as well. It keeps that classic muscle car look, but it adds a little extra something to the appearance of your Mustang. And in fact, these things almost have a mirror finish to them, plus they've got the cool AWE logo stamped in at the top there. All that to say, this is a really good sounding system, but it's also made exceptionally well. And that of course means that construction is a highlight, as it is with all of AWE's systems. You get 3-inch diameter T304 stainless steel tubing with 0.65-inch thick sidewalls all the way back from the cats out to the tips. Now this is a full bolt-on system, and it also features these slip-fit inlet adapters, so everything will slide right into place on your factory manifolds. Now these tips again are 4.5 inches in diameter, and they feature that really awesome silver chrome finish over a double wall / cut construction. Now this system is also available with a black tip option if you want to go that route instead, and we do have that available on the site. However, perhaps the coolest part is that this system actually saves you nearly 20 pounds over your stock exhaust. Coming in at around 39 pounds versus your stock 58, it's not a ton of weight savings, but it is just one more added benefit. Pricing comes in at about $1,400, which does position this toward the more expensive end of the category. This is of course a premium option given that construction and all the engineering that's baked in here. Yes, you're paying a lot, but you're getting a lot here as well. And if you want a really solid quality setup that's gonna last you a long time, you gotta be willing to shell out for it. Installation is going to get a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter and should take you around 2 hours to complete. Now this is not going to require any modification to the car or the system itself. So again, this is a bolt-on setup and it comes with everything you need to get it installed. With that, let's head out to the shop and we'll walk you through the process.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, a ratchet, an exhaust hanger remover tool, a flathead screwdriver, a rubber mallet, an extension, 11, 15, and 16 millimeter sockets, a 13 millimeter swivel socket, and a pry bar. What's up guys? Today we're installing an exhaust on our Mustang, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is come to the double flange behind our cat. We have 4 15 millimeter bolts that we can loosen up with a 15 millimeter socket. Now we're going to leave this just like that for now as we work on the rest. One thing to keep in mind is when we go to pull this off, this little hook is keeping this on, so you're going to have to get a flathead screwdriver to pull back on that on both sides when we go to remove it. Next, we can come right behind our rear diff to this hanger. There's one on each side of this bracket. There's a 13 millimeter bolt holding it on. So I've got a 13 millimeter swivel socket on an extension to pop this off. And now we'll just come to the other side and do the same exact thing. And now with them both removed, you can push up to get those hangers off the hooks. And do that same thing on the other side. Now, last thing we need to do before we can remove this is remove these 2 bolts that were on the inside of those 2 hangers behind the rear diff. So I'm using that same 13 millimeter socket with an extension. Now with those removed, we can push it up off the hook and pull that down to get the clearance we need. So now I've got myself a buddy to support the weight of the rear of the exhaust while I work on the front. We're going to push this towards the rear to disconnect these 2 pipes, and then we can pull it forward to pull it out of the back hangers. So now with our exhaust removed, we can take an exhaust hanger remover tool to pop off these 2 hangers because we will have to reuse them for our new exhaust. Now, last thing we need to pop off is our 2 clamps that are at the front of the exhaust. You can take a rubber mallet and get the edge of a pry bar on the edge of the clamp to tap these off. So the first thing we're going to install is our adapters. We're going to be reusing our factory clamps for these. Now the nuts are going to go towards the passenger side of the car. So we'll slide these on, and then we can slide our adapters into them and tighten them down. So now we can slide our clamp into place. And then we'll slide the thinner side of our adapter into the other side. And then we'll take our 15 millimeter socket to clamp down on these. Next, we can install our H-pipe. So we're going to get one of our clamps on either side. And then we can slide it over those adapters. Get it straightened out. And then we'll take a 16 millimeter socket to tighten these down. Next, we can install our axle tube. So we'll take another one of our clamps, slide that over the edge of our pipe, and then raise that up into our H-pipe. And then we'll take one of our hangers. You're going to want to make sure that the hook is pointed towards the front of the car. And we'll slide that over our rod, get that up over this cover. And then we can hook that into place. Now once we have our hanger hooked into place, we can reinstall our bolt. And then we'll grab our 13 millimeter socket to tighten it down. Now we can go back to the clamp, get that into place, and then take a 16mm socket to tighten it down. And then you can repeat the same process for the other side axle tube. Next, we can reinstall this bracket that we removed to drop our exhaust. We've got these two hooks that will just hook right above our U-clips. And then we can thread those two bolts into place. And then we'll take a 13mm socket and tighten these down. So now we're ready to install our tailpipe. So we're gonna take another one of our clamps and slide this over the edge of our pipe. And then we're gonna be getting our hanger into the isolator right above our diffuser first, and then we can connect our two pipes together. And now we can go back to our clamp, get that in place, and take our 16mm socket to tighten it down. Now lastly, we can install our tip. We have a carriage bolt that's gonna slot into the square hole on top. So we'll put that through, and then we can go to the other side and install our flanged nut. And then we can slide our tip into place. You can adjust it to have as much or as little poke as you'd like. And I'm just gonna put a finger on the top of the bolt to keep it in that square cutout so it doesn't spin. And then we'll take an 11mm socket and tighten it down. And then you can repeat the same process for the tip and the tailpipe on the other side. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the AWE Track Edition catback exhaust with chrome silver tips for your 2024 Mustang GT Fastback without active exhaust. Thank you for watching, and for all things Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.